Happy Sunday, everybody. Andy, Steve, and Corbin from WagerTalk.com. Welcome to the Road to Millions on this beautiful Sunday morning. Guys, we have a ton to get to. We are going to go over all of the player props and line moves. We're going to go over same game parlays. And it is time to unleash our first quarter under strategy onto the world. We're going to go over one of the games that we like to go under on their first quarter. We'll talk about alt lines and we're going to talk about anytime touchdown scores. And then we're going to give out our three best bets. So while you guys are watching, please hit the like button and tell us your favorite bet that you like today. We're going to go over a ton of these bets. So let us know what you like. And let's get right into it. Let's start, guys, with some of these player props and the line moves. I would say we have Jimmy Garoppolo is out. Deshaun Watson is in. That's a big one for some of these Cleveland Brown props. Looks like Saquon is out. And unfortunately, Derek Carr is a game time decision, although I'm not really sure how that affects a lot of the Saints props. We'll start with our passing props here. So passing TDs, our good friend Bubbles was noticing that they have quite a few of these passing props at half a touchdown pass. So some of these, like Ryan Tannehill, I don't know. They haven't been good, but like zero. Lamar Jackson, 0.5. Justin Fields, I think I like that one the best. I actually think, crazy as it sounds, that may be a shootout with how bad those defenses are. And Chicago's banged up in the secondary. I could totally see that game going. But here we go again with a Brock Purdy. We can start there, Steve. Brock Purdy over 1.5 touchdown passes. He's done this every single home game in the regular season that he started. It's minus 130. Cardinals, I don't know. It's not a great, it's not a terrible matchup. It's kind of middle of the road here, but is this worth playing here?
I mean, it's a middle of the road matchup, but when you look at Purdy, he just gets to two every come hell or high water. He gets to two. You know what I mean? He doesn't get three usually. He doesn't get one. He gets two. And against it almost throw the defense out. He almost just gets it on a weekly basis, and it's a pretty decent price at negative 130. I think it's worth a look as a small play.
I know, it's just like he got there last week. It was like 5 minutes left in the game, and on one hand you're like, come on, man, could you get it done early? But then it's like, well, it just keeps hitting. So it's one of those streaks. We talk about these streaks coming to an end. I mean, I'll get to the Christian McCaffrey one for the same team, but I don't know. The streak seems kind of sustainable. Like he's not going to hit it every single game, but it feels like he may hit it 10 more times throughout the rest of the season here. So
Well, they have that high-powered offense, and then they have the defense that puts him in a lot of good situations too. He has a lot of weapons to work with. McCaffrey obviously out of the backfield as well. So I think it's also a combination of the defense putting Purdy in some great spots too.
We'll move on to passing yards. I got to tell you, I still keep coming back to Tua under his total. Went under against the Patriots, torched the two terrible defenses he played. Besides that, we see this line number kind of creeping up. This was 272.5 yesterday. So a lot of these lines kind of have jumped up a yard or two. So I'm on that one. Corbin, Jalen Hurts under 230.5. Is this a sneaky play against the Commanders? I kind of think the Philly kind of beats up the Commanders, and this ends up being a 200-yard rushing day for him. I don't know. Is that getting too cute?
No, I agree with you. I think both sides might rush the ball, which again takes so much time off the clock that it's just going to come down and down. It's like Eagles, I think, are going to be up by so much they might just rest Hurts. I can't see him throwing crazy numbers. So
I would think you'd have to get there sooner rather than later in that one. I wouldn't depend on a whole lot coming in late. The Rams and the Colts, Matthew Stafford. I know Corbin's going to talk a lot about the Rams, but I mean, just this number, he's gone over this 3 games in a row. He's had 2 300-yard games. I'm telling you, fade that Colts secondary, baby. It's profitable. So
we'll get to that.
Corbin is going to fade the you know what out of.
We're unanimous on that one then, because I have Stafford jotted down as over for yards as well. I mean,
what do you got?
Just the combination of him going over all 3 games. Then you kind of checked all the boxes with the Colts. the way to get at them is through the air, obviously, not on the ground. We've realized that over the past couple of weeks, and yeah, I had him jotted down as well.
Bryce Young is going to start. This is a curious one because, okay, he's banged up. He hasn't looked great. His offensive line hasn't looked great. But, I mean, he gets the Vikings. This could absolutely be a shootout. Steve, you've been all over Kirk Cousins and Kirk Cousins props. Does 280.5, it's getting higher. Could both these quarterbacks go over?
Yeah, I think that both could in this game. It seems like the Vikings are just a recipe for a shootout, essentially. The Cousins number is both players I wouldn't make as official plays myself because the Cousins number is a little high, like you said, and Young with the injury, we're not sure what's going to happen there. And I have some stuff with the Panthers later as far as the receivers and stuff. But it's kind of just basically if Young were to go down, I'd be just as happy to have Dalton in there for the prop that I'm going to talk about after.
Burrow, Tannehill. I mean, you're getting a hobbled Burrow, but they need wins, and Tennessee's another secondary that is ripe to be picked on. So I would stay away from that. Lamar Jackson, I'm done with him in passing props. He should have had a much better week last week passing, and he just, I'm totally over him.
He's got some injuries over there too, right? Bateman, is out over there, so he's got some injuries to wide receiver. I think Flowers, he's going to have a lot of action over there today.
And he's going up against, I think this is the number one defense in football right now. I mean, the Browns are just amazing. So I talked about the Ravens 19.5 under on their team total. So yeah, if I don't like overs on, if I like unders on Baltimore's team total, I certainly like unders on Lamar's passing here. Speaking of injuries here, I keep coming back to this Broncos-Bears game. I know everyone kind of laughs at it, but I think there's value here. The Bears are missing guys in their secondary. Russell Wilson didn't give up 70 points last week to the Dolphins. Right. That was the defense. I get Russell Wilson, for all of his quirkiness. I don't think he's been the problem there with Denver. So I have this 241 against a Bears team that can't stop the run. They can't stop the pass. I don't know, Corbin. Is there value here? There overs in this one?
In all honesty, I just want to stay away from that game personally.
Okay.
I see where you're going. I like the idea, but do I trust Russell Wilson to do anything? Not particularly for me yet. So
fair enough. Chargers and Raiders. I actually like the under on Justin Herbert here because this Raiders team could be horrific today. With Garoppolo out, Devontae Adams is already pissed off. He's already pissing and moaning. So this could be another kind of ass whooping where Herbert doesn't quite get there. I guess on the flip side, though, Josh Kelly might be. I don't think he's as bad as AJ Dillon, but boy, he's sure creeping up into that AJ Dillon category of can you make there's a great line Pete Prisco from CBS says that he has the ability to turn a 4-yard run into a 1-yard run, which I love.
They're great at running into tackles. That's
yes, absolutely. So, I don't know. Maybe Herbert's a stay away, but I would be a little bit worried here. I think Steve, you have anything Patriots Cowboys from these guys or not much? I got a couple props for the running backs.
No, I have more. I have some receiver stuff for that game. The quarterback props for that game don't really stick out to me. There's nothing there that I really like for quarterback stuff in that game.
All right, let's move on to the rushing props. Let's talk some rushing yards. This James Cook's number has moved quite a bit. It opened at 55.5. That's up to 59.5. 4 yards is a pretty big move on this one. Initially, I liked it, but I gotta throw a little caution to this one. So if you look at the Dolphins, they've given up pretty big rushing numbers for the year. All of it was in week 1. That was the week that the Chargers ran for 200 yards on them. They've actually not been too bad against the run. They made some adjustments there. So I was very quick to jump on the James Cook number here as a play I liked. But when I looked into it, I'm a little bit more concerned. I don't think that's as big of a shoe-in as I thought it was going to be. And I will just caution everybody, they're not going to run for what they did last week. Just be careful. I'll just say that. Go ahead, Steve.
I'm with you on the Cook one, though. I early in the week I was on that one as well, and I still, even though the numbers moved up, I still like it. I mean, he's went over 2 of 3 games, and I just think that the Bills here, they're going to try to control the game on the ground, and he's been the go-to guy over there. It still seems like a manageable number. I know we were both on it independently earlier in the week, so that's usually a good sign too.
Can I
Corbin,
just mention the
Yeah,
Josh
go ahead.
Allen? Yeah, so
Oh,
the Josh
yes,
Allen
absolutely.
rushing, yes. So the recipe for him rushing is always just the close games. It has to be a close game. So if you look at the results this year, so he had 36 versus the Jets. He really should have got over that. Had a couple of nice runs. That was obviously a close game. He got just 7 in the blowout to the Raiders, but then he came back and got 47 last week. I was looking over the stats, and last week in the game, last year, sorry, against Miami, he had 47 and 77. So I'm expecting it to be a close game. I really like him to go for a couple of long rushes. So
That's good stuff. Yeah, that certainly should be a close game,
yeah.
based on everything. So, hey, Corbin, you were talking about rushing in the Commanders Eagles. What do you think about Brian Robinson? I would take the under. I don't see the game script or the ability for Brian Robinson to get over 55.5. Steve, what was your stat? 19 out of the last 23 Eagles games they've scored first.
Yep, 19 out of the last 23.
Yes,
That's why that first half team total was such a gem for us last year. That was a big part of it.
See, I think the Commanders might stick with the rush for a bit. I'm not convinced Sam Howell at all. I'm not convinced they have the particular weapons to throw. I know they're going to potentially need to throw the ball, but I could see them running it a few more times than maybe you would expect on the face of it, personally.
You don't believe in Sam Howell? Come on, man.
No, I do not.
This is an interesting rushing prop for the Colts game with Anthony Richardson, 47.5. I think the messages had to have been for Anthony Richardson, like, use your legs, but get out of bounds. Get down. You cannot take those shots. You cannot be diving for the extra yards. Like, I know it's tempting to dive for the touchdown, but it's just not – it's not very smart. I would just stay away from Anthony Richardson props. I guess the only one that you could probably talk me into is for him to have an anytime touchdown, because until Jonathan Taylor gets back, he is probably their best goal line back, except – now that Zach Moss has emerged, like, I wouldn't even play Richardson anytime touchdown, because why would they try and put him in harm's way? So I think Anthony Richardson props are just off the table completely. I wouldn't trust any of them. And we'll save the Rams for Corbin for your segment, because they're coming up. I don't want to go too much into them. Vikings and Panthers, I don't want anything to do with Madison. Certainly not Bryce Young or Cousins. Steve, we talked some more about Derrick Henry. So this Derrick Henry line's moving down, and the Tajay Spears is moving up. Bengals are okay. I wouldn't put them as a great defense. I think they looked a lot better last week than they really are. But I don't know. Derrick Henry, you're like, I know somebody in the chat said, or in the comment section said, no, you got to take Derrick Henry over on home games. I don't know. This doesn't seem like the same Derrick Henry, does it?
Yeah, not at all. We talked about his under earlier in the week, and he's went under this in 2 of 3 games. He's had 15 carries or less in 2 of 3 games. They're just not giving him that workload, justifiably so. They're not giving him that workload that they used to. And the Bengals have just shut him down. He played against them last year, and he played against them the prior year in the postseason, and they kept him under this number in both games. The defense, the Bengals just seem to have his number for whatever reason. It's not an official play for me, but it's one that I'm looking at, though.
I talked about I like Jerome Ford under. I don't. He's a good weapon, but I don't think he's that great of a running back. And these games just I like him honestly more as a receiver, which I think if Nick Chubb had stayed healthy, I think this could have been an incredible backfield over the course of the season, because Chubb with the running, Ford with the with the catches. I just think there's a little bit too much. Corbin, you seem to agree.
Yeah, I'm just not sold on him, quite honestly. I think they're going to have to throw the ball today. I was looking at Amari Cooper props, but yeah, I'm just not convinced on Ford, quite honestly.
Yeah, I talked about Ford earlier in the week as well, and the Deshaun Watson news with him playing now, I'm back on board, but I'm just not I'm not going to play it just because I don't know if Watson will make it through the entire game. I feel like the big thing with Ford is that he just doesn't have the vision. We talked about he's getting tackled behind the line of scrimmage or getting contact behind the line of scrimmage at nearly double the rate that Nick Chubb was. So he's just not the running back that Chubb was.
Steelers and Texans. I do kind of lean Pierce under rushing. I don't have anything strong in the rushing yards category. I think we'll talk about Jaylen Warren in the receptions category though. So, all right, guys, we have to talk it out. I mean, this Bears game, I've been on it. Khalil Herbert and Roschon Johnson. I think they both could get there. This Denver defense stinks, and I think that the Bears running backs are coming off of two very tough matchups, and this is the best matchup. So, Steve, would you prefer Khalil Herbert 42.5 or Roschon Johnson 32.5?
Man, it's tough. This is one where beginning of the week I'm looking at Herbert, then I'm looking at Johnson, then it's Herbert. I mean, I think all the running backs in this game could go over because Javonte Williams seems like a good look as well because Pirine, his workload's been going down every week, and Williams is the main guy over there, and the Bears are getting ripped apart by the run as well. I guess I would lean towards Johnson just because he has the lower number, just that alone. You know what I mean? And he seems like he had taken the starting work share from. I mean, they're about a 50-50 split, but it seemed like Johnson was kind of the lead dog last week, and he's getting the receiving looks as well. So maybe they need him out there for pass blocking as well.
Corbin, I sent you a same game parlay. Khalil Herbert, 25 plus rushing yards. Roschon Johnson, 25 plus rushing yards.
It's hard to argue with it, isn't it? So
it's minus 160. It's juicy, but it falls in the category of I don't care. I think they both fly over 25.5.
Yeah, I agree with you. That is a good spot for getting two lower totals. You have to feel like 25 is nothing for. They could easily get that on a couple of runs if they break a couple of tackles. So
absolutely, but I mean they've both been going over that total pretty in games. They've been getting their asses kicked.
I saw that one as well, and I just lean towards going not drinking the juice and just playing Johnson. If you're going to do that, you're going to go 25 plus on both of them, and then you only need 6 more yards on. You're going to need 5 or 6 more yards on Johnson for what?
That's true.
50 cents for 50 cents.
Yeah,
seems like a bargain to me.
All right, yeah, you're probably right. Buccaneers and Saints. Kamara. Either of you want anything to do with Alvin Kamara today?
I want an under actually. This seems like a high total. I quite like the Bucks defense. I mean, who do the Saints really have? That's like I feel like they're going to have to go through the air. The Bucks have always had a good run defense. Like first game back, it's like got to be some rust there, surely. So
yeah, Raiders and Chargers. I don't want to touch Josh Kelly. First off, that's rude. Go touch another guy. It looks like Elijah Mitchell's out. McCaffrey 93.5. Steve, you pegged Elijah Mitchell when he was in to go over his total, and you talk about Christian McCaffrey being injured prone. My God, Elijah Mitchell, bro.
Yeah, he
already
stay on the field.
Is this enticing enough to you?
Yeah, I mean any sort of McCaffrey over, I'm interested in for the most part. Especially if without Mitchell, vulturing carries there. So, it's not something that I'm going to play officially, but it's something that's worth a look. I mean, the McCaffrey, unfortunately, the touchdown prop now is just through the roof. It's it's nearing negative 300 now, and like you said, and like you mentioned, it seems like it might be the time now for him to not get the touchdown. Right? It's going to happen eventually. He can't get a touchdown every single week.
No.
The one thing I will add to the McCaffrey is I like when these players have such high totals, them to have like a longest rush. Like I was playing Nick Chubb last year over 12.5 longest rush. You have to feel if they're going to get to like 100 yards, they're going to break one tackle for one long run, surely. So I'm not sure what the total is this week for it, but
longest rush that he's definitely been getting over that for sure. So longest rush 18.5. Boy, they're putting a big number. That's the biggest number by far. But I totally see where you're going with that. And then finally for the rushing props, Steve, what'd you think of the Patriots Cowboys game. Anything from rushing, or are you looking at receiving?
No, the stuff I have is for receiving in that game, and it's not really running back. It's not
All
really
right.
running back stuff. I mean, I guess you could look. I see a lot of people talking about Ezekiel against the Cowboys. He had a good week last week, but I just can't ever trust. I'm not in the business of guessing what Belichick is going to do with his running backs. It's just you just don't
You
know on a
think?
weekly. Yeah, I'm not in the business of trying to pick that out because it's impossible.
Chiefs and Jets. I listen. I really don't have a whole lot in this one. I guess Pacheco maybe over if the game script goes that way. But I think this game's just low scoring and clunky. These two teams both have really good defenses. The Jets have a good defense. They keep their teams in it, but at some point that defense is going to get a little dejected when they see Zach Wilson throwing the ball out of bounds or to the wrong team. So I don't have anything for rushing on this one. Let's jump over to receiving and go through these here. Corbin, you on Jalen Waddle, 22.5, longest reception.
Yeah, it goes straight back to it every week. So the only concern is the coming back from the injury, but I'm just I'm blindly playing it most weeks. So
well, the good news for him is in this category is that it wasn't like an ankle or a hamstring, so his speed should be there. I'm surprised it's still 22.5. He just keeps going over and over and over. I mean, Tyreek is 26.5. I just wonder why Jalen Waddle wouldn't be as high as
exactly
Tyreek. So the longest rush, we love that one. Let's see, receiving yards. Anything in this game, Steve?
No, I don't have anything for that one.
All right. Commanders and Eagles. I'm a little nervous on passing props for this one. I think this AJ Brown is pretty high. They keep trying to get AJ Brown touchdowns, and they just keep missing.
Yeah,
you can tell they're really trying, but it doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't really. It's not.
You
really
just don't know how the Eagles are going to attack. Are they just going to have a game where they just want to run constantly, or are they going to have Hurts throwing? It's just too unpredictable. So.
I would love to go with Antonio Gibson over his receiving, but I've been disappointed by his target share, and I've been disappointed by his lack of involvement in the offense. That was a prop I thought I was going to like at the beginning of the year, but it's just not really happening. I do. Pittman has had a really good year. He's had good games with Richardson and with Gardner Minshew. I might look at his over receiving, but once again, we'll get to the receiving a little bit later here. Steve, we can save Thielen for the best bet section. There's a spoiler of where we're going with there. I mean, it's Justin Jefferson is now. You're just going to get over 100 yards every week.
It's out of control.
So
yeah.
Bengals and Titans. Anybody like Jamar Chase over? Steve, you want to just reiterate Tyler Boyd real quick for us?
Tyler Boyd was your play, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Me and Andrew talked about that one. Tyler Boyd has 17 targets the last 2 weeks. That's a stat nobody realizes. I guarantee it. He's gone over his receptions total. He's gone over his receiving total. I like Tyler Boyd.
Especially against the Titans as well.
Yes. Burrow's going to
perfect matchup
quite a bit. Anybody like I mean, obviously Jamar Chase had the huge game. Anybody like this 83.5 over, or is that line just a little bit too high?
I just don't trust Burrow enough in this spot. If it was a fully fit Burrow, then I would trust it, but I just can't. So especially when we've just mentioned the lower totals on some of the other receivers, I'd rather look that direction personally.
Yeah. Okay. Ravens and Browns. We talked about Amari Cooper. Yeah. Now that Deshaun Watson is there, bum shoulder.
I'm on board with it now that Watson's back.
Yeah, I think I am too. I don't know. You talk about it, Corbin. What do you like with Cooper? I guess if Deshaun Watson's playing, I guess we just got to say if he's okay for the Browns, he should be okay for us to trust him, right?
Exactly. To me, he's one of the few Browns receivers I feel like Watson has a good connection with and can trust him. He's the clear wide receiver one. And as I mentioned, I expect the Ravens' run defense to be pretty solid. So he may look to go through the air, and Cooper's his main target. So,
Steelers at Texans. Do we like anything from receiving in this one? We can just jump. We can jump ahead real quick. Or go ahead, Steve. What were you
Well,
going to say?
you got Warren over 2.5 receptions sitting there again at negative 130. That was our 5% play last week, and we cashed that one. I'm sorry, did I jump ahead to
No, no. Go
receptions?
ahead. Go ahead. Because
Yeah, so we cashed that one last week as our 5% play, and I mean he just went over every week. He's out there on the passing downs. Houston, they haven't given up a ton of receptions to running backs. They're kind of middle of the road. More on the ground is where you're getting at them, but I think Warren still is a good safety blanket, to go over 2.5 receptions at that money.
that's the only one I like in this game, and I'm going to take a pass on the other ones. So, all right, guys, let's get into the same game parlays. We'll remind everybody we do have our NFL best bet that is up 5%. We are 24-9 over the last couple seasons, 3-0 this season, and you can't run the table if you don't hit the first three. So, gotta make
Right?
we're pretty proud about this one. So, all right, Corbin, you're up here for same game parlays here. Want to talk about the Bills or the Rams first?
Well, first I was just going to say, so for the people that haven't watched, the idea of these same game parlays, we're taking alt totals where how many players fall short by just a couple of yards, and it's infuriating. So we're looking to parlay stuff that I'd say is more likely to happen. It gives you margin for error at not crazy odds as well. We're not doing huge same game parlays that are like 10-1 or better. So we're just parlaying stuff that, like you'll see here, four parts for the Rams is quite a lot, but we'll get to that. So I'll start with the Bills and the Dolphins. So as we've mentioned, I'm expecting this to be a close game, and Diggs has been getting so much work. So I was looking at his targets. He's had tons of targets in every game. He's had 10, 8, and 7 receptions. So to get 6 just gives us a little safety blanket with that. I think Allen's going to be throwing a fair bit. It's going to be a competitive game. The Dolphins' offense has obviously been on fire. I'll mention the Bills plus 7.5 later as well. But at home to cover a touchdown just seems too good. They're really solid at home. And then moving on to the Rams and the Colts. Again, we've discussed it. I just think the Rams are going to torch the Colts through the air. So what do we have? We have Rams plus 10.5, Stafford to throw for 200 yards or more, Tutu Atwell 25 receiving, and judging by the fact I will mention him later for just getting one catch over longest seems pretty good, and then Puka to get over 50. So the Colts secondary is just so poor. I'm not convinced by the Rams run game, so I feel like they're going to rely on Stafford to throw. He's had 334, 307, and 269 passing. So with us only needing 200, that's quite a big margin for error. Even if they do decide to run the ball, I feel like all these totals will still get there. Tutu has had 8, 9, and 9 targets for 119, 77, and 50 yards. Again, we only need 25. That's half of his lowest game so far. And then Puka has had a whopping 15, 20, and 7 targets so far with 119, 147, and 72 receiving yards. Again, we only need 50. So in a game I'm expecting Stafford to throw, it kind of all matches up together. It's all somewhat intertwined and linked. So that's the idea with those.
Love it. Yeah, if Stafford gets over 200 yards, Atwell and Nakua. We talked about how Van Jefferson's just seems like he's getting faded out of the offense. He's had 5, 4, and 3 targets. So with you on that one, and like the way you're going after that Bills game. That's a good way to kind of attack it. Yeah, Bills are a favorite, so you get that spread up over a touchdown, and you get Diggs in a close game. Absolutely, he'll be a big target there.
I love the Diggs there. That's one that I saw you put on in the message board earlier in the week, and you look at that one and the Dolphins, they try to keep everything in front of them, so that seems like a game. We talked about a lot about Gabe Davis going back and forth with his over and unders. This seems like an under game for Davis and a lot of work for Diggs, in my opinion.
Because Diggs has also been lining up all over the place. Like they can't put a set person on him
Yeah.
because he's lining up in the slot. He's getting quick little short targets as well. He's all over the place. So
And
I feel like he's
Allen
going
is
to get a lot
just
of work.
Allen is just looking his way consistently,
Exactly.
constantly.
Yeah.
All right, so that gets us started on the same game parlay. Once again, guys, grab that 5% best bet, lock that thing in. That number is steady. So we put in a couple days ago, but it's still perfectly fine to fire away on. All right, let us talk about first quarter unders. So, Steve, we've been tracking and monitoring these. We've got a couple that we've put up officially, and this is one of them. So the theory behind the first quarter unders is you want a total that's over 7.5. So you want to have a touchdown and a field goal have to beat you. You want some teams that are a little bit clunky and on offense, and you want teams that have pretty good defenses, and you want these teams that kind of run the ball and keep the clock moving. And the reason we love the first quarters is there's no mad rush to score at the end of the quarter. We see so many times these teams just kind of burn out the clock, even though they're in close, and they may be on the 10-yard line, first down, and then with a minute left, and then they run the ball and they just let it go to the second quarter. So, Steve, we talked about Bengals and Tennessee. So let's talk about why we focused on this game for the first quarter under. And I'll just start. First off, 7.5. We get a decent line on it. So we need a touchdown. We need a field goal to beat us. Let's talk about the individual teams and why they check these boxes.
I mean, Tennessee just seems built every week, first quarter under. You look at the game and it just seems built for an under. And like I would add to what we look for in these is, these teams play conservative early on. They don't want to make mistakes. So we take advantage of the under in the first quarter that way. You look at these two teams, they're combined 5-1 going under the total so far. Only one Titans game has went over. The Bengals have only scored 10 points in 3 games, and they haven't allowed anything in the first quarter through 3 games. On the other side, the Titans, they've scored 9 and only allowed 6. I mean, I love this one. We have a couple of them that we like a lot this week, but this is my favorite one. And every week I'll be looking at the Titans as that first quarter potential under, and they seem like they fit the bill almost every week.
And you mentioned about looking for clunky teams, and Bengals certainly fit that criteria right now.
Titans as well. Titans run first on both ends too. So that's they both really do check all the boxes.
Yeah, so that's just kind of one. All of our first quarter unders are attached to that 5% play. So if you want to get all the official first quarter unders, they are attached to that one. All right, here we go, Corbin. We're going to the alternate universe. Okay, so somebody asked about why not doing teasers. I will tell you that I don't want to talk about teasers because everyone does. And B, I like the alt lines because you have so much more freedom. You can put that number exactly where you want. Like if you want exactly 7, you can do it. I would also say I like talking about these because you can use them in cross-sport parlays. With the teaser, you're locked into NFL. We have a play we have a cross-sport parlay. Well, it's not cross-sport, but we had a CFL play on the Blue Bombers on the money line. And now we just need the Chiefs on the alt line -2.5. I just love that flexibility. So that's why we don't that's why we don't talk about teasers here. I prefer talking about the alt lines. So Corbin, the Cowboys really effed us last week.
Yeah. The other two got there easily, obviously.
Sure.
Chiefs won super easy. The Rams covered. It's just the Cowboys tripping over to the Cardinals was the one that brought us down. So
yeah. Let's talk about this week. And by using alt lines, you're just going to take a touchdown in every single game. So let's talk about them.
So I'm taking a team that I think will probably win outright, and I'm covering them with a +7 on all the cases here. So we have Bills +7, Vikings +7, and the Rams +7. So obviously I've mentioned the Bills already, but they're at home. They're just so tough to beat, especially by 2 scores, which is basically what you need here. The Dolphins are coming off that big win, but the Broncos are just a car crash on defense, particularly. I have to feel that the Bills are going to put up a far better showing than that. The Bills have played well the last 2 weeks after that loss to the Jets in overtime, but again, that's just by 3 points. It's not like they're getting blown out. the Bills have won 4 of the last 5 meetings between the teams, with the one that Miami won was just by 2. So again, covering +7 easily. And then we go back to it. I've mentioned it a few times. The Vikings just don't ever seem to lose by more than 1 touchdown. They, even in a loss, they just keep it so close. They've lost by 3, 6, and 4 so far this year. The Panthers, quite honestly, just suck. They are so bad. They lost to the Falcons, Seahawks, and Saints, and to think they're going to beat the Vikings by more than 7 when all these other teams can't, I can't see it. So that's the reasoning on the Vikings +7. And then again, I've mentioned it a few times, the Rams +7 to the Colts. The Colts they're just not convincing me in any kind of way. They beat the Texans by 11, and the Ravens in overtime, but the Rams have so many weapons through the air, particularly that we've mentioned. I just think they're going to torch the secondary. The Rams have lost by just 3 and 7, and then winning the other game by 7. Again, I can't see them getting blown out by more than 7, even if they were to lose. So
I like
that's
it.
the reason.
I like it. I like getting all up to a touchdown. So that's going to be your week 4 alt line for the Bills, the Vikings, and the Rams, all at 7 points. Good stuff there. Anytime touchdown scores here, Steve. We'll just briefly go over. We're always taking the defensive touchdown. The Patriots love that. That's a nice thing when it doesn't hit. Is you get a much better price the next week. So we're all the way up to 8-1. That's good. We'll still stick with Dotson. Garbage time still counts.
Yeah.
That.
We'll stick with both of them. I mean, they're both 0-3 so far, but we knew we were taking them for the long haul. And I see some light at the end of the tunnel maybe this week. Commanders probably need to throw. We know Dotson led the team with 7 touchdowns last year. It's a little concerning that his targets and yards have went down now 3 weeks in a row. But yeah, we'll stick with them. And I'm sticking with the Patriots. This is still a great price, and I think that we could take advantage of the Cowboys' banged up offensive line.
We'll just stick with week 4, anytime touchdown. All right, admit it, Steve. You're a Swiftie. Come on.
Yeah, so this is my favorite. So we're 2-1 on the touchdown scorer favorites. Kyron Williams let us down last week for the first loss on this one. Kelsey's my favorite guy this week, though. We've seen him score touchdowns both weeks. His numbers are up both weeks, and Mahomes is looking his way. And the key here is Jets, they've allowed 3 tight end touchdowns, which is tied for the most with the Philadelphia Eagles. Only 2 teams that have allowed 3 or more touchdowns to opposing tight ends. This one seems tailor-made to swiftly go over. So, yeah, I'm not gonna say either. I'll tell you, with this going on in New York too, you can't tell me that he's not looking to score another touchdown tonight, right? You know what I mean? Like, it plays into it, just like the Thielen play. Next one, a couple down here. But Jaylen Warren, we talked about his receptions, how he's been a lock for that one for us. And I know that Andy liked this one earlier in the week. His snap count's been up every single week. He's the receiving running back for the Steelers, and the Texans have allowed 5 rushing touchdowns to opposing running backs. They're right up there at the top of the league. So we'll look towards Warren on that one. Thielen, again, it's he's playing against his former team. He played there for so long. He played there his entire career. You can't tell me that's not in his head that when he looked at the schedule and looked at his games for this year, that he didn't circle this game. It's a great spot for him as well. The Vikings have a horrendous pass defense, and he scored in 2 of 3 games. And I'm not worried about Young or Dalton. If Dalton's in there, we saw Thielen have a big week with him at quarterback as well. So regardless of what happens there at quarterback, I like Thielen to score this week. And then Juwan Johnson, he hasn't scored yet. This is a great sleeper at +425. He hasn't scored yet this season, but he had plenty of touchdowns for the team last year. Bucks, they allowed 21 tight end receptions, which is the second most in the league. So they're vulnerable to the tight end position. This is one that I missed when we were going through the receiving. This is a play that I like with Johnson even more, obviously, than this touchdown play, because it's pretty obviously this is a sleeper play at 425, but his receptions over 2.5 is plus money right now. It's plus 110. He's had 2, 2, and 3. And regardless of the quarterback situation, Winston, he had a good rapport with him last year. And then if it's Carr, I think that with him being banged up, he might be looking for a safety blanket, a short yardage guy. And we just talked about how the Bucs allowed the second most receptions to opposing tight ends at 21. So we can sprinkle that one as well. And then if you wrap up Kelsey, Warren, and Thielen, those are my three favorites for the week, with Kelsey being number one. Get plus 1240, and I feel like it's worth a small little sprinkle, because eventually I'm gonna get one of these pay dirt parlays. And then
Yeah,
you know
man.
what? Rabbit. I got the luck on my side this morning. First of the month, Italian good luck. My sixth grade.
Tell everyone the story before we get to the best bet.
Yeah, so my sixth grade, I don't remember a lot about my teachers. My sixth grade teacher used to say all the time, rabbit, the first of the month. If you say it, you can't say a single word. If you say a word, you're out for the month. But before you say anything, rabbit, you say those three words, it gives you Italian good luck for the month. And also amoeba, euglena, and paramecium are the three algae found in ponds. That's a question that I was asked 3 or 4 days a week when I walked into the room in sixth grade. So I don't remember a lot about my teachers, but like I said, her son was in my class, and he was the same age as me, and we were buddies. So I remember her, and she would have a good time busting my chops when I came into class on a daily basis.
Of all the things to pound into your head, she thought it was, what are the three?
She said, "Mr. Seagrave, what are the three? Yeah, what are the three? Yeah, amoeba, euglena, and paramecium. What?" She said, "Mr. Seagrave, what are the three algae found at the bottom of lakes and ponds?" And this was like 3 or 4 days a week. The Italian good luck thing was more of a, it's the first of the month, beginning of the month. Don't forget tomorrow, rabbit, everybody. So we have the good luck rabbit for each of us. Let's cash the pay dirt parlay, and let's cash all of our best bets as well.
I've also heard that if we hit the pay dirt parlay this week, that Steve is going to come on next week and sing some Taylor Swift.
Yes.
If we hit this at 1240 and we get some people that played it, then maybe I will.
Absolutely. All right, guys, let's get our three best bets. Don't forget to get that 5% play locked in. If you haven't, it's over at WagerTalk.com. I will start. I'm taking. This was an accident. I will take another Swift, but I'll take DeAndre Swift over 66.5. I guess we have to just accept that he is the clear-cut number one back. And the Eagles have just been playing this bully ball, man. They just overwhelm on the offensive line. He's averaged the last 2 weeks 152 yards rushing. Maybe they do something crazy and Gainwell gets a bunch of touches, but even if Gainwell does, I think they both run quite a bit against Commanders. I wouldn't be upset at a Gainwell over, but this guy averaging over 152 yards, I think the Eagles do the same thing this week that they did last week. I think this could be one of those where we're left going, man, why didn't we play DeAndre Swift? He rushed for over 100 yards again. So I'll go for DeAndre Swift in a game script I think favors the Eagles. I think he gets a lot of rushing yards. Corbin, you're all in on the Rams. Let's talk about Tutu Atwell and his longest reception.
Yeah, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but as I've mentioned, Tutu is getting quite a lot of targets still, and he has so much speed that he can just break tackles, make space for himself. So I was looking over the stats. He had longest reception of 37 yards versus the Bengals, only 18, so just short against the 49ers, but their defense is so great. And then 44 versus the Seahawks. The secondary for the Colts is so bad, as we've mentioned. I have to feel he could easily get one, if not two, long receptions here, especially on such a low total. So,
all right, Tutu Atwell over his longest reception. Steve, going with Adam Thielen. Common theme this morning. We're just going to take his 49.5 receiving.
Yeah, the number seems really low to me. He really went off last week with Dalton at quarterback, but the week prior with Young, he went over this number with 7 receptions for 54 yards, touchdowns in back-to-back weeks. So he's went over this number in 2 of 3 games. I think the game script sets up for him for them to need to throw to him. I think that he has plenty of reason to score and catch plenty of passes and go over this total against his former team. Mingo and Sanders both questionable and banged up, so maybe he gets a little bit of extra work if one of those guys goes out or is out. And I really just think that there's something to this week with him playing against Minnesota, where it's the perfect storm. They've allowed a ton of receiving yards to opposing wideouts, so give me his over.
All right, guys, we're looking at DeAndre Swift over his rushing, Tutu Atwell over longest reception, and Adam Thielen over his receiving as our 3 best bets. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Don't forget that like button. Leave us a comment if you haven't gotten your survivor picks in. I think most everyone has, but if you haven't, go ahead and put that in the comment section below. Let us know your best bet. Let's cash that 5% play. Keep the NFL profits rolling. Good stuff this morning, everyone. Good luck on all your plays, and we will see everyone tomorrow morning on the Road to Millions.
Good luck.